popular politicians in the country right now at 6 to 9%. How do you poll less than that?
Easy. It's called your family members that all work for you. Those are the people who support you. So,
Right, I mean, that's like Hitler level. Hitler would get 12% in Wells County. And so, I don't know why you guys are 6 and 9%. That's just crazy.
no, my friend, that's called the politics of today. So, and all of its splendor and glory. So, there we are. I just figured we'd talk about the almost sort of over government shutdown and the impact the last 40 days have had on the economy and a couple of things, if that works for you.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's go ahead and get your name and spell your last name for us, and we'll get this puppy started.
Michael Hicks, Hicks, Ball State University economist.
All righty, great. And we're coming in 3, 2, 1. Well, as we get ready to sort of get ready for holiday shopping season and government shutdown, all this other fun stuff, we figure, hey, probably couldn't hurt to check on the economy, see how things are doing. So join us on the news line, no stranger to this program, our good friend Michael Hicks, economist at Ball State University. So, Michael, my friend, how's it going? I hope your world isn't nowhere near as complicated as mine is.
Well, there's no economic data coming out, so I'm just sitting here cleaning up old messes.
Well, speaking of economic data, how is that coming along with the government shutdown we've had recently? I know a lot of government data was supposed to be out on a lot of things that we sort of take for granted weren't out right away.
Right. I mean, you're more attuned to the political sausage making than I am, but I think we're probably 3 weeks away from the first new jobs report that'll come the first week of December, I think December 5th. If we're lucky, that jobs report is going to capture, if the private sector data is right, probably somewhere between 100 and 150,000 fewer private jobs and another 100 to 150,000 fewer public jobs as a consequence of the early outs of the government shutdown. And that's not accounting for whatever short-term shocks the 40-day shutdown has had, which could be monumental. So it's going to be a really rough first Friday after the Black Friday holiday.
Well, I know it's caused a big stir in the airline industry with air traffic controllers not getting paid and flights being delayed and canceled. That can't be good for economic business.
No, and if you think about it from the top down, so yeah, you've got a lot of people who are doing critical government jobs, managing infrastructure, who are, air traffic controllers, TSA employees who aren't getting paid, and there's some of those people can go to work for 4, 5, 6 weeks without pay, but there's an awful lot of them who can't. So I'm sure there has been a shock to all of those systems that's now bleeding over into economic activity, travel, tourism, business travel, and all those sorts of things. If you look at the local level and places where employment is heavy, if you're an Army platoon leader in Colorado Springs, Fort Carson, you got 50 men in your unit and 50 men and women, and a third of them are married. Their families have got half pay over 6 weeks. So you're beginning to see some folks are in trouble. 2 or 3 of them are on SNAP, and so they're not getting food stamps. So, the job in the military is more difficult for people who are providing security to nuclear sites, to the policemen at Congress. These are people who most of us would feel the pain of 6 weeks without pay. And I'm certain that a lot of Americans who are doing those critical government tasks are feeling it. And I know that doesn't inspire a lot of concern by many folks, but the fact is we have as lean a federal government as we have had in, really since before World War II, before the Great Depression. And so there are a lot of important tasks not being done that the effect is going to be felt for some time. And I think it's just part of the overall story of economic challenges that we're facing right now. It's just part of it.
And no, it's funny, my friend, you bring that up because I maintained when the shutdown first began about 40-something odd days ago, I was thinking to myself, people probably won't begin to feel this for probably about a month when hopefully this does not go into Thanksgiving, because if there are no air traffic controllers and flights are delayed, that's going to piss a whole bunch of people off. Then a whole bunch of folks are going to be feeling this stuff who saw like it was bad as esoteric, but it's really not my problem. Well, once you can't get on that airplane or grandma can't get to wherever, now it's going to be your problem.
Right, and what's clear about it is it's easy to blame every member of Congress. This is an Article 1 duty that they have abandoned for some time. So it's not new that Congress is dysfunctional, but there's one person responsible for this shutdown that's preventing negotiations, that didn't want anything to happen. And that's the same guy who's had more shutdown time on his watch than all the previous presidents combined. And I think that the fact that we're getting out of it right now is because it's clearly hurting his popularity, and that's probably the right interpretation of this.
Our guest on the program today is Ball State economist Michael Hicks, who's looking at the state of the economy in the wake of the recent government shutdown. No, Michael, it's funny you bring that up because in poll after poll after poll, I'd say there's sort of enough blame to go around for everybody. But the majority of the public blame Republicans and the president, who already was sitting under like a 37% approval rating, and just lost special elections in Virginia, New Jersey, and also redistricting in California.
Right, and that, as a guy who grew up in Virginia, I can tell that swing in Virginia was the biggest single swing since the 1960 vote for JFK. So if you are worried about this being a harbinger of other things to happen, I think that's right, and I think that's what's driving some of this, and some of the move to resolve this. It's a big challenge. The parties are far way off on how they handle the growing debt crisis, and we're not getting anywhere near closer to it with the shutdown. It'll be worse in the months and years to come, given the way Congress voted earlier this year. So, I think we're in for more pain rather than less in the year ahead.
Why do you make that argument, my friend?
Well, so we have economic pain as tariffs. The tariffs are the effects are just being felt. The way this plays out is that businesses are going to be very reluctant to do anything with prices or employment. There's a big cost to being the first person in Elkhart to lay off your workers, or the first company in Kokomo to lay off your workers. There's no cost of being number two. And so when the cash runs out, because consumers are cutting back in consumption, almost all the economic growth so far this year is really coming in AI investment and data centers, not in RV purchases or automobiles or new housing. When finally those businesses run out of running room to keep employees there, and they have to raise prices, I think you're going to see a cascade of events. And I think you're beginning to see it now. Anybody who's been to the store over the past few weeks has seen an awful lot of shockingly high prices for everything from turkey and food to you name it, and that's going to get worse. So even if the president is rescued by the Supreme Court, which I expect he will, the effect of the tariffs are going to take some significant time to unwind. And even if the Supreme Court rules on its the IEEA tariffs in the middle of the first quarter or end of second quarter, which is kind of the earliest to the latest they're likely to rule, I think that puts us deep in recession territory well into the summer and fall of next year. I think the new economic data that we're going to get in December is going to reveal that we have lost a significant amount of jobs, and that we're, really struggling economically. And at the same time, there's political leadership fundamentally disagrees about how we get to cutting our debt. They've got one side that thinks that you can cut your way in terms of taxes and spending to reform. The other side is mostly interested in just raising taxes and is not taking the entitlement cost seriously. And until Americans pressure the Congress to do their job, I don't think we're going to get out of that. So I think all of that together spells the dreaded S word of stagflation, a period of time where we have much slower economic growth, higher prices for things that we buy on everything from, housing and turkeys and cranberry sauce, to automobiles and consumer electronics. And I think that's what this holiday season is going to bring us. And I think that's what next holiday season is going to bring us as well.
Our guest on the program today is Ball State economist Michael Hicks, talking about the state of the economy, inflation, tariffs, and the whole nine yards. Michael, it's funny you brought up inflation and feeling price at the grocery store because I had this really weird thing. So just work with me here for just a second here. I use Splenda with my coffee, Splenda and heavy whipping cream, and usually I'm a big Splenda fan, so I usually use about 6 or 7 or 9 Splendas at the most. But I noticed something the other day that we put 9 Splendas in, the coffee didn't taste right, so I had to add 2 more Splendas. Is cost inflation messing with my Splenda packets?
It could be. Firms are very good at reducing their quantity. I mean, that's part of what you hear. Like businesses largely say, no, we're not doing that. But I do think that there's efforts to cut, wrapping and packaging and size. And the Splenda is a great example. That's a product that's probably processed primarily in the United States. But the problem with tariffs, I had a similar shock over the weekend. I went to Rural King to buy, I was going to carry out 40 pounds of bird feed for my wife. And she saw the price. She was like, holy cow, that's up by a third. I'm not going to buy that. And most of the products inside that were grown in the United States. But we have tariffs on Europe because sunflower seeds are imported in the United States from Ukraine and elsewhere, and we have tariffs on European products, and so that raises the price of all of those products for Americans. It's not just an increase on one product. All the complements, any substitute goes up as well, and so tariffs. If you think steel is a better example. When the president raised tariffs on steel in March of 2018 in order to prevent imports of tariffs to help the domestic steel industry, the domestic steel industry raised their prices almost to the level of the new tariffs. That's what tariffs do. They raise prices. And so when you have tariffs that raise prices, you should be unshocked by it. And they raise prices across the board, not just for the imported item, but also the domestically produced complements, those things go into, like cars, and they also for substitutes like domestically produced steel. So across the board, things like Splenda and sugar and cranberries, much of which is produced in the U.S., is just getting walloped by higher prices. And again, it's perfectly predictable. It's exactly the consequence of the policies that the president started implementing in January 20th. He doubled down on April 8th and has continued to August 8th, which was the big target date where virtually everything that was imported faced higher tariffs.
And I knew something was going on because, like I said, once again, my friend, I'm totally selfish. I look at things through the Abdul lens. I knew my Snickers bar with almonds just seemed smaller. Like this, right. This is a smaller candy bar.
You're getting bigger, Abdul. It could be you're getting bigger, but no, I do think businesses rightfully try to adjust. Now they'll label them. They're not going to purposely mislabel them. But the way that you change things is to adjust. Sizing. Extra large is a lot bigger than it was 20 years ago because people are getting bigger, and so. I think it's a natural way for businesses to respond. Again, they're not going to lie about it. They're not going to mislabel it. But if you look really closely at the serving size on the package, there's a good chance that it's shrinking, and in part because there's psychological barriers at pricing points. So that's why there's so many things that are priced at 99 cents or $99. Not going over that because of the psychological dimension of that.
So let me ask you this, my friend, and this is getting to the psychology of the presidency. Is Donald Trump just from a time and era where tariffs is how you just did business, as opposed to a global trading marketplace now, where the product in Japan that's assembled in Taiwan that's sold here, it's a lot more interconnected world economically than it was, say, 40, 50 years ago.
It's certainly more economically connected, but the tariffs were so devastating in the early 1930s, long before he was born. The early 1930s saw the Smoot-Hawley tariffs, and they contributed to a couple of points of GDP loss in the Great Depression, but they really clobbered American banks. All the bank runs that entered American psyche as late as 1946 or 47, when It's a Wonderful Life was filmed, were really caused by tariffs clobbering agricultural areas. And so for whatever reason, most of the developed world, for the Great Depression and World War II, caused the developed world to realize that we need to interact with one another. We want to trade for a variety of reasons, ranging from we would like to not go to war in the developed world again to this really made the Great Depression worse for everybody. And so from the end of World War II to the present day, trade has grown, globalization has grown, and everybody is better off. Nobody better off more so than Americans, with the sole exception of a very small number of people who just couldn't compete in a few areas. And so, we lost maybe 1.5 million jobs due to automation and trade over a 30-year period. And we created about 30 million new jobs. So automation, trade, globalization has been great for Americans. And for some reason, President Trump's convinced that fact is wrong. And I think that's why we have tariffs that are really clobbering us. And if you don't think they are, just wait a few months till you see the unemployment rate and the farm closures that are going to happen in much of the United States as a consequence of tariffs and the trade war, the broader trade war that they've caused.
So if history, my friend, shows that tariffs are at best a very short-term fix for a longer-term problem, why go down the tariff route? That's what I just can't get my arms around.
I can't either. There's nothing that economists agree with more than that simple fact. And so, look, there are really good reasons to support domestic industry if it's providing a key input to national defense. So the CHIPS Act is brilliant, right? So Senator Young and his marshaling through the CHIPS Act, that's exactly how you get semiconductors that are an important part of national security. They help us with weapon systems and you name it. That's what you need to do. We need to support domestic industries that are critical for us, but we don't need Americans to produce the semiconductors that go into our toasters or that go into a toy UAV that we're going to get for Christmas, or a stopwatch that costs $11. That's just a waste of American talent and resources. We make high-end stuff. And so we should take the low-end stuff, bring it here, repackage it, build it, turn it into that value-added product. Everybody wants to be an American manufacturer, but you can't without our American well-educated, trained workforce. And so what tariffs would do is move us back at a time when we're less competitive. We have less well-paid workers. We're producing lower valued items. It doesn't make sense at all, with the sole exception that if you know that these tariffs are going to come about, it's a pretty good way for you to play the stock market and make a lot of money in it. So if I knew, if I had $50,000 to spend today and I knew that there was going to be a change in tariffs this afternoon because my dad told me or because I got some magical news of that, I could turn that $50,000 into $300,000. And if I knew there was going to be a change in a week, and I could turn that $300,000 into $10 million through financial hedging. And so there are people that these tariffs benefit. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of them in places like Connorsville or Muncie or Kokomo or Peoria.
Michael Hicks, professor at Ball State University, with us for a few more minutes on the program today, talking tariffs and the economy. Mike, I want to switch gears to AI. I know you and I have talked about AI before and sort of the impact of all these data centers, but I remember reading an article recently that AI is now coming for those mid-level professional jobs, not necessarily the lawyer, but the law clerk, not necessarily the college professor, but the college professor's research assistant. As AI goes forward, how's that going to change and impact our economy? And are there going to be political consequences?
Yeah, that's a great question. I just published something on the local effects of AI, and got my door closed, so my research assistants out here can't hear me talk. AI is going to do what almost every other innovation in history has done before, and it's going to routinize or automate those less human, less skilled tasks that we perform. And then cause there to be more value for the higher skilled, better, more complex, human-specific tasks. So AI is really good at writing code if you know what type of code needs to be written. So I can tell AI, I need you to write me code for a very technical equation that I want to estimate. It doesn't know which would be the best code for that. It can't ask the hypothesis test effectively. All AI has failed at that. So it complements, like other technologies, it complements higher education and more cognition. What AI might really do in this environment is, the previously microcomputers, semicomputers, and the internet have really benefited sort of technical education, a PhD in EE or economics or finance. It's really done wonders for the productivity of those professions. It's possible that what AI will do is really value human skills and human interaction and replace the low-skilled human interaction, right? So if you call a bank and you've got a question about check number 1035 that you think got the wrong code on it, it will take you a minute or two or three to get you to the right teller. And that replaces the very basic task of just deciding who's best to deal with this customer concern. And then it's going to get you to somebody who can solve that customer concern. So it will be a substitute for the person who can only read the title of the complaint and doesn't know how to handle it, and it will complement that really high skilled task. And I'll just go on one more minute. I talked to a banker recently, said, AI is taking my commercial loans from 45 days to like a day to process. And I said, well, are you firing people? He said, heck no, now I'm having them doing customer calls and customer relationships. So it's really substituting away for the people who are good at the understanding the spreadsheets of the business application, and it's valuing those very human tasks of listening and interacting and drawing a relationship with the customer. So I think AI is going to do a lot of things like that complement human specific characteristics, but I'm not sure which ones will be most valued. And I think that's an exciting period for people who have a lot of skill. If you don't have a lot of skills, if you aren't good with people and you aren't good with math and you aren't good with your hands and you're not good at solving problems, that's going to be a tougher road for you to hoe. A real big call for education in all of its forms.
It's funny you bring that up because I was having a conversation with a colleague of mine the other day about the use of AI in the legal profession. I told you, I use AI. I tell people, I'm the architect, but AI is the builder. I mean, I still got to gather all the facts, gather all the data. Now, AI can look through a 100-page document and pull out what I'm looking for. But at the end of the day, though, AI can't put together an argument for me to go present in front of a courtroom. And AI can't interview a witness or do a deposition. It can give me questions for a deposition, but AI can't pick up body language. Let's put it that way.
Right, and so there's no way that it can fix that. There's a great paper by David Autor called the Polanyi paradox, and the description of it is, that the Karl Polanyi, a great mid-20th century economist, said there we know more about our jobs than we can know, and he named things that that AI has not been successful at solving, and developing hypothesis tests, for example, are good at that. But you're right, the really human tasks of solving problems, of reading body language, of understanding things, of knowing how to make an argument that would appeal to a jury, or in my technical math work, right, when I'm trying to do a statistical model, I know what to ask from it. It can give me code, but it's only going to give me code for what I ask, not for what I need. So if I do that wrong, AI is a useless, maybe a counterproductive tool.
Exactly. Perfect example is in a hearing on Thursday up in Howard County, and I'm listening to the other side make their argument, also kind of watching the judge's body language. Okay, she's really in an answer. She's really pay attention to that. Okay, she just had to pull her head back and close her eyes, so she's probably not going to pay attention to that. And AI just can't do that because AI doesn't have my experience of reading human body language. It just doesn't have that.
And it can't. I mean, what human beings are always going to be more adaptable, and that's even the Turing test, which is Alan Turing's argument that the way you would know AI worked is that you know that you're talking to you couldn't tell that you weren't talking to a person. Nobody's been able to actually get that, because at some point you can ask a computer something so complex that a person can come off on their head. Like, what does it mean when somebody, and describe any sort of body language and things that people get, and most people get intuitively, computers won't get that. Not everybody gets it intuitively, but the people who do might really be advantaged in a world of AI where they can get facts quickly, but integrating those facts and having them work for other human beings is a really complex, probably not computable skill.
Like, for example, AI, why did my wife marry me? AI tells me, Abdul, I can't answer that question.
Well, now that may be out.
Exactly. Michael Hicks with us for a few more minutes on the program today. So, Mike, when we look at AI and the legislature, I know Indiana 2026 has been sort of grasping, with this issue from everything from deep fake porn stuff that's popping up all over the place, just AI in city county council meetings. How is AI going to sort of transform our day-to-day economy for, like I said, just for regular people, not like folks like us?
Right. No, I don't think it's fair to say that AI porn is popping up everywhere. It's popping up in a few specific places in the State House. But I think for the average person, there are a lot of things that AI is going to do that's going to help you that you won't ever even know about. It's going to provide you better information about how your car is working. It's going to eventually integrate with your refrigerator. When you put things in your refrigerator, it will scan in the barcode. You'll know when the date is, and within years, well, you could do it now, but within years, most new refrigerators will have warning lists that, hey, that cheese you put in the back of the cheese bin is now a year ago is now past its due date. It's going to integrate with your ability. When you're already doing it when you search for something. I need to buy a new pair of shoes. So I get on there and it's going to tell me things about the shoes that I already bought a year ago because it's tracking it. And a lot of that seems really scary, but it's not. They're looking. They only have very particular uses for the data that AI will sort of integrate with. I think AI is going to hopefully cut the cost of education. I mean, the thing we've been wrestling with for a century is that it takes the same amount of adult supervision to educate 25 third graders now as it did in 1900 when my grandfather was in third grade. And so that's 4 or 5 generations of people that we haven't seen productivity gains in terms of people per the teacher to student ratio. Maybe we'll start seeing AI technology that's going to let us identify problems earlier with students. It's going to have students work at different rates and skills. It's going to give us tools at work that we couldn't have dreamed of. And I think it's going to hit people who are younger. So if you're in your late 50s, early 60s, I think probably AI is going to be a tool of your retirement and do some fun things for you. If you're 30, you better learn about how to do prompts. You better be thinking about all the integration of AI in the workplace. I think it's going to help in design of buildings, and it's going to speed up map making. It's all the things that if you can think back to what 1979 was like and what you couldn't do in terms of communicating with other people, it's as big or bigger than that. So you can make maps on AI with no problem. I do that right now. Make me a map, and the map will come out. If I did that 2 years ago on geospatial information system, it would take me 2 or 3 hours. If I'd done it in 1978 with a colored pen on a map and transparent paper, it would have taken me hours and days maybe. And so it's speeding up a lot of things. And that puts a premium on how good this information is. How concise is it? How interpretable is it rather than how long it is? And I think that all of those things combined to sort of be a change. And some of it's going to be great and welcome, and some of it's going to be rocky, just like the internet and social media.
Well, my friend, I did play with AI to draw new congressional maps, and came with some pretty interesting things. We'll put it that way. So just throwing it out there.
I think there's a lot of people doing that right now. So.
Well, thank you, my friend. Great minds think alike. Our guest on the program today has been our good friend Michael Hicks, professor at Ball State University, talking about the economy, the shutdown, AI, the whole 9 yards. So, Michael, my friend, sir, always good to talk to you. I'll probably squeeze in one more conversation between now and the end of the year, my friend.
That'll be good. Hopefully we have some more economic data by then.